Hi friends, now coming here to the next topic, we have just finished the non-advectional inversion of a temperature, and continuing from where we left is the advectional inversion of a temperature. And as I told you, advectional inversion of a temperature means this kind of a temperature inversion involves movement of the air. It involves movement of the air. The movement of the air may be horizontal movement of the air, or it can be vertical movement of the air, that is along the horizontal line or from up to down. So such kind of a temperature inversion, that means such kind of a condition when there is a cold air below and the warm air above, but due to the movement of the air, is known as an advectional inversion. Now this advectional inversion are further classified into two types. As I told you, there are two types. One is the frontal inversion or cyclonic inversion, and the other is valley inversion. So the two major types of inversion are frontal or cyclonic inversion or valley inversion. Now we will study this both, and we will study this valley inversion in detail, and frontal or cyclonic inversion I will tell you while doing the cyclones. Now again, what is advectional inversion? Kind of a temperature inversion which involves movement of the air, divided into two types: frontal inversion or cyclonic inversion, and valley inversion. Now you remember one thing is that the cold air is heavier than the lighter air, is heavier than warm air. And therefore, when the cold air is heavier than the warm air, it is generally seen that the cold air comes down, and because it being heavier and you can say stronger than the warm air, it pushes the warm air upwards. So in the cyclonic or frontal inversion, it occurs, I'll rub this, obviously this says that this kind of a temperature inversion occurs in the regions of cyclones. But which kind of a cyclones? It occurs in the regions of a temperate cyclones. Though we have not studied winds, what happens in the temperate region? There are two kinds of air. One is the cold polar easterlies, which come from the polar region. These are the cold polar winds which come from the poles. And then there is another wind which we will study in the next topic, that is westerlies, which go into warm westerly winds. Now this occurs at around 60 degree north and 60 degree south latitude. In this, that is in the temperate region. In the temperate region, though I am giving you the background, in the temperate region there is coming together of two kinds of wind system. One is the cold wind which blows from the poles towards the subpolar low pressure belt. One is the warm wind which is known as westerly wind, because it is blowing from west towards the east, and therefore this westerly winds, because it blows from west towards the east, because it blows from the west towards the east, it is known as a westerly wind. So there is a convergence or coming together of two kinds of a wind system. Now you see the properties of this two wind system, one being cold wind, the other being warm wind, is different. Why I say the property is different? Because the cold wind is heavier, the cold wind has less moisture, the cold wind is much denser, temperature is different, pressure is different. Warm wind is lighter, low pressure, high humidity. These are two different winds. So it is like India and Pakistan facing each other, or two enemies facing each other. When two enemies face each other, it is known as a battlefront. In geography, when the two different kinds of winds come together or converge, it is known as an polar front. It is known as front. So because these two winds are totally different in their properties, such kind of area is known as a front. What this area is known as? It is known as a front. I will deal with all these topics while doing the pressure. This is just for you to understand what I mean by the cyclonic inversion. And the fronts gives rise to cyclones. But what kind of a cyclones? They gives rise to the temperate cyclones. So in the regions of a temperate cyclone, the cold wind, it comes down. This wind which comes down on the ground surface is a cold wind, while the warm wind goes upwards. The warm wind is pushed upwards. So this wind is a warm wind. This wind which is coming down is a cold wind. So such kind of inversion, when the cold polar westerlies come from the polar region and the warm easterlies come from the equator or subtropical region, they come together. At a point when they meet each other, the warm wind rises upwards while the cold wind comes downwards. So the condition becomes, if this is a cold air and if this is a warm air, they come together, converge, and over the period of time, the cold air comes downwards while the warm air rises upward. So the condition becomes a slope in which there is a cold air below, white remote, while the warm air lies above, that is this duster. So such kind of inversion which occurs in the regions of temperate cyclones is known as cyclonic inversion. It is also known as front because the property of this cold wind is very different from the property of this warm wind. And as I told you, what is a front? You generally call battlefront, area between the two enemies. So when they meet each other, here also the two winds are totally different in their aspects, in their properties, so it is known as a front. So when the winds come together, the cold wind being heavier goes down while the warm wind being lighter goes upwards, resulting into condition where the cold wind is below and the warm wind is above. Such kind of inversion is known as a frontal inversion. So we will write it. If you have not understood, I will again repeat it while doing the cyclones. So what is a frontal or cyclonic inversion? First thing, these are formed in temperate regions. These are formed in the temperate regions due to temperate cyclones. What are the temperate regions? We have done it already in the world distribution of temperatures. So if you are confused, watch the previous lecture. So what are the temperate regions? Above the tropics and below the polar regions. So the area between tropical and polar regions are the temperate regions. So what happens in the temperate cyclones? In the temperate cyclones, there is convergence of warm westerly wind and cold polar easterly wind of warm westerly wind and cold polar easterly wind. The cold air being heavier and denser, the cold air being heavier pushes the lighter warm air upwards, pushes lighter warm air upwards, resulting into temperature inversion. So, what you have to remember here, it is a part of an advectional inversion. One is the frontal or cyclonic inversion. Now again, I am repeating, they are formed in the temperate regions. Why in the temperate regions? Because they are the part of temperate cyclones. Now, while doing the cyclones, we will study that temperate cyclones are formed due to convergence or coming together of two different kind of winds. What do you mean by different kind of wind? They are not different in race, they are not different in religion, they are not different in color. It's a wind, it is different in the physical properties like temperature, like pressure, like humidity. Cold wind is having less temperature, high pressure, less humidity. Warm wind is having high temperature, high humidity and less pressure. So due to difference in their properties, because of less pressure, the lighter wind goes upwards. Lighter wind, which was the lighter wind? Warm lighter wind rises upwards, cold heavier wind comes downwards, resulting into such a situation we say as temperature inversion. But you see, we are taking it as a part of advectional inversion. Why? Because the winds are blowing, they are not stationary. Had the winds been stationary, it would have been formed a part of just a previous topic, that is non-advectional inversion. But again remember, this is found only in the temperate region. We will study one more type of cyclone, that is the most dangerous type of cyclones which hit India, which hit different part of regions, but they hit in between the tropical regions. These are known as tropical cyclones. Tropical cyclones are not associated with temperature inversion. It is the temperate cyclones. So, frontal or cyclonic inversion are found in the temperate regions, in the temperate cyclones, due to the convergence of warm westerly wind and cold polar easterly wind. Why the name westerly and easterly? We will do it while doing the winds. The cold air being lighter, cold air being heavier. Why it is heavier? Because you will study that pressure is inversely related to temperature. The cold air being heavier, it comes downwards, sinks downwards. At the same time, it pushes the warm air upwards. So the situation becomes somewhat like this, though you don't have to draw this diagram in the examination, but it becomes somewhat like this in the if this is the ground surface, there is cold air below and there is warm air above. There is a warm air above. So this is the diagram for different types of fronts. Now why I am saying in this, don't draw it in the diagram in the examination, because we'll be studying this topic differently, and at the end of what does this diagram represent, we will study this while doing the fronts itself. So this diagram is a convergence of cold and warm front. What are the different types of front? It's a bit technical at the end. Now coming to the other kind of an inversion is the valley inversion. Just have a look here at the board. Now, valley inversion. Again, it is a part of an advectional inversion. Now, what do you mean by valley inversion? That means it occurs in the valley. What happens in the mountainous valleys? Before I give you the technical answer, in the mountainous valleys, during the night time, heat is lost due to the radiation. During the daytime, it becomes warm. But during the night time, heat is lost due to radiation. Now, if this is a mountain, during the night time, which part of the mountain will lose heat quickly? Will it be this part, upper part, or will it be lower part? Which part of the mountain will lose the heat quickly? Heat, clouds, where are the clouds? It will be somewhere, if it's a high mountain, it will be somewhere in between. This area will be having a cloud cover. Some peaks of the mountains are much higher than the cloud cover. Okay. So, which part will lose again the heat quickly? It is the upper part. Second, where do you feel comfortable? In between the concrete jungle, or especially during the summers, or in the open fields? Where do you feel comfortable? Obviously, in the concrete jungle, it becomes very hot. That is what we call as an urban climate. Why? Because the concrete traps the heat. Same analogy applied. As I told you, geography is not much different from your practical life. Same analogy you apply here. During the night time, the upper parts of the mountain lose their heat very quickly. They will lose the heat very quickly due to radiation. But the lower part of the valleys will not lose the heat. Heat will be lost, trapped, reflected, trapped, and thus the lower part of the valley remains hot. So what happens? This area becomes cold. Why? Because it loses the heat very quickly, while this area remains warm, because it cannot, or we can say it remains hot, because it cannot lose the heat, as the heat lost, trapped, reflected. Trapped, reflected, trapped, reflected. So the heat gets trapped in between. Also, the lower atmosphere has more water vapor, more gases, so the heat is trapped in between. यहाँ पे there is no much cloud cover, open air, so the heat is quickly lost. Heat यहाँ पे trap नहीं होती, but the heat gets trapped and reflected due to the different kind of mountain slopes. As a result of this, the condition becomes there is a warm air above, there is a cold air below. Now you will say this is the normal condition. It is not a temperature inversion. Then what is temperature inversion? Cold air should be below and the warm air is above. But you remember something called as gravity. You remember something called as cold air is denser and heavier. So as a result of this, what happens? This cold air comes downwards, and it pushes the warm air upwards. Because the cold air is being heavier, it comes downwards and it pushes the warm air upwards. So what is the end result? The end result in any kind of a valley becomes the valley floor becomes cold. Why? Because the cold air comes downwards while the warm air is pushed upwards, and the upper part of the valley remain warm. Why? Because the warm air is pushed upwards. It is forcibly pushed upwards. The cold air is stronger. It comes forcibly and pushes the warm air upwards. Why? Because the cold air is heavier and therefore it sinks down. That is why the cold air is being heavier, it sinks down and remains on the ground. As a result of which temperature inversion occurs. Now I will ask you one more question. Where is generally air conditions? Now our homes, especially if you are living in hostels or if you are living in the if the house is not well planned especially, then we see that the air condition is downwards. But generally, where is the air conditioner? Air condition is up on near the ceiling. In any of the house, the air condition is placed near the ceiling. Why the air condition is placed on the ceiling and not downwards near the floor? It is not that so that we can stand below the air conditioner and feel the cold air. It is again the physics. You can say cold air is denser, therefore when the air conditioner blows out the cold air, the upper part becomes cold and the cold air sinks down. It pushes the warm air upwards and thus the air circulation begins in the room and the air conditioner works with efficiency. The room is cooled with efficiency. That is why air conditioners are put on the ceiling. If you put air conditioner near the floor, then you will stop this circulation because cold air will remain stationary on the ground, warm air will remain above. So you will have to put on the fan to circulate the air. Again, extra bill, less efficiency. So therefore, air conditioners are also pulled on the top. The same analogy you apply to the valley inversion. During the nighttime, the upper part of the valley becomes cold while the lower part of the valley remains warm. As I told you, why it remains warm? Because the heat is trapped in between this valley, resulting into normal conditions. So over the period of time, what do you mean by normal condition? There is a cold air above while there is a warm air below. But the cold air being heavier, it starts coming downwards or it sinks downwards and it pushes the warm air above. So it comes and sinks downwards and it pushes the warm air above, resulting into a condition where there is a warm air above and the cold air is below. See the direction of these arrows? The arrows are this way. Such kind of an inversion is known as an valley inversion. It is also a part of an advectional inversion because this involves vertical movement of the air. Now, what is the human significance of it? I will come to it later on. But before that, you write down some of the points, or you take down some of the points, or remember the points. First is valley inversion. Occurs in mountainous valleys, due to vertical movement of the air. Due to the vertical movement of the air. During the winter season, during winter nights, the temperature on the upper slope of the mountains, I will use the shortcut for temperature, TMT, the temperature in the upper parts of the valley, or we can say on the upper slopes of the mountain, becomes exceedingly low or becomes very low. Why? Due to rapid loss of heat. Due to rapid loss of heat. And why I told you, as I told you, heat is rapidly lost because it is not trapped. It is given in the open atmosphere. There are generally no cloud covers or very little moisture, very little gases. very little humidity, therefore it is rapidly lost due to through the process of radiation. On other hand, due to less loss of heat. Why due to less loss of heat? As I told you, the heat is trapped. These mountain slopes, if these are the two mountain slopes, heat is, while losing the heat is trapped, reflected. यहाँ की heat is trapped, again reflected, so this area remains warm. On other hand, due to less rate or due to low rate of loss, due to low rate of loss of heat, the temperature at valley floors, remains comparatively warm. Means compared to that, it is warm. Now this is the condition, normal condition, means valley floors are warm, upper air is cold. The cold air being heavier, it sinks down or it comes down, it descends or sinks down the valley floor and pushes the lighter warm air upwards. It pushes the lighter warm air upwards. This pushes the lighter warm air upwards. Thus, cold air occupies valley floors and warm air is above, resulting into temperature inversion. Thus there is a cold air occupies the valley floors and the warm air is above, resulting into the temperature inversion. So valley inversion occurs in the mountainous valleys due to the vertical movement of the air. Why? During winter nights, the temperature on the upper slopes of the mountains becomes very low due to the rapid loss of heat. On the other hand, due to the low rate of loss of heat, the temperature at valley floors remains comparatively warm. The cold air being heavier, it descends or sinks down the valley floors and pushes the lighter warm air upwards. The cold air, as a result, the cold air occupies the valley floors while the warm air is above, and this process is known as an temperature inversion. Now, you are expected, because such question they will ask you what you mean by valley inversion, what do you mean by mountain inversion or mountain and valley inversion. And I think because the diagrams are very, very simple, in such things you are expected to draw the diagram. So the diagram for this will be, you can take down this diagram, and in fact, as I told you, because it is a comparatively simple diagram and geography is all about diagrams, you are expected to draw the diagram. So draw it in the examination to fetch the better marks. So these are valley, this is what is valley. Now the cold air, you have to show the direction of a cold air. It is coming downwards. From both the sides. It shows that there was a cold air above and it is now flowing downwards, while the warm air is being pushed upwards. While the warm air is being pushed upwards. So it results into cold here and it results into warm here, resulting into temperature inversion. Now you see in the examination, because you are drawing two types of arrow, always label the figure in the examination. It is the figure about valley inversion. And show the this also, that is the red here, because I am using red, I will show that red represents warm air, while blue represents cold air. This is how a proper diagram in the examination should be. So here we see that even the examiner, if they see at your diagram, we should understand what you mean here. You are showing that warm air is rising upwards and cold air is coming downwards, resulting into temperature inversion. Fairly simple diagram, you can draw it in the examination. As I told you, the better than you are than your competition in your studies, in your notes making, that same thing is reflected in the examination. You write the answers in much better way and you are above the competition. So this is a kind of an temperature inversion. Now, what is the significance of this inversion? Or we can say importance of valley inversion. What is the importance of a valley inversion? See, the importance of a valley inversion is what is happening here. The cold air is coming from above and it is occupying the valley floors, while the warm air is being pushed upwards. Over the period of time, that is during the night time, this lower part of the valley becomes cold, while the air above remains warm. So if you settle exactly, if the houses are here on the valley floors, if there are farms on the valley floors, if the people reside on the valley floors, then the night becomes exceedingly low. And if the house is somewhere in the middle latitudes, in the temperate regions, or even in the Kashmir, or even in the Himalayas, that is, if you are residing on the valley floors, then the nights becomes horribly cold. Okay, so and if the agriculture is practiced, now what is the agriculture in the mountainous regions? It is generally orchard farming, fruit farming, flower forming. These are all delicate things. Now, due to extremely cold temperature, the agricultural crops are destroyed. The fruit orchards are destroyed. The fruit industry is destroyed, and therefore valley flowers, because of this, are avoided for human settlements. Generally, human settlement in the mountainous region, I'm not talking of the Western Ghat region, I'm not talking of tropical regions, I'm talking of middle latitudes and high latitudes. That is of Kashmir, of middle Himalayas, of higher Himalayas, of the Himalayan region and above. The valley flowers are avoided for human settlements. Why? Because the strong cold air suddenly comes down the valley, and sometimes this temperature inversion, obviously it will result into formation of a fog, and fog sometimes results into formation of a frost. What is a frost? Extremely cold climate. So therefore, due to such kind due to this, sometimes the temperature inversion, valley inversion, causes frost, which is harmful for agricultural crops. Therefore, valley flowers are avoided for human settlement. Especially in middle latitudes. Especially in the middle latitudes. Why? Because it becomes extremely cold, and therefore valley flowers are avoided for human settlements, especially in the middle latitudes. That means if you go next time when you go for a vacation, or if you have memories of the vacation, you will see that the big hotels or the great hotels are generally, if this is the foot of a mountain, hotels are generally located here, or hotel industry is located here, or the hotel industry may be located here. Even the farming is done here. Generally, no hotels are located near the foot of a mountain. It is generally along the slopes. One reason is obviously a great view it offers of the entire valley, refreshing air which comes, but the other geographical reason also you should remember, to avoid the temperature inversion, because if the hotel is located here so houses are located, or if the settlement is here, or if the farming is done at the foot, first, there is a danger of flood, because generally it is near the river. The second is, obviously, it will destroy the agriculture industry due to the frost action. Now, I will come to frost while doing the humidity part. So, because it becomes extremely cold. So, importance of valley inversion. Valley is avoided for human settlement because of the extreme coldness. So, this is what we have finished with the advectional inversion. Now coming to the next topic, that is, what is the importance? We have studied the inversion. What is the importance of inversion? Obviously, I have done it, but I will just, so that your answer looks very properly, I will just answer right here the significance of temperature inversion. or the importance of temperature inversion. First, temperature inversion, I will use the shortcut here, leads to formation of fogs. So remember fogs, whenever you will see the fog, you should remember that it is a temperature inversion. So temperature inversion, that is what I have written here as Ti, it leads to the formation of fogs. Now why fog is formed? Fog is formed when the warm air when is the fog is formed? It is formed when formed due to cooling of warm air from below cooling of warm air from below. What does this do? It results into condensation exactly opposite of evaporation. Why? Because cooling is occurring. It results into condensation of tiny droplets results into condensation of tiny droplets of what? Water vapor around dust particles. It results into condensation of tiny droplets around the suspended dust particles. That is, there are numerous dust particles and we know that they act as a hygroscopic nuclei. So due to cooling, there is a condensation. It results into, what does it results into? It results into condensation of this tiny droplets around the dust particles. So this is the formation of a fog. Now, as I told you, why does the fog disappear in the morning? During morning or during daytime, fog disappears Why does it? Because exactly opposite of condensation occurs because of evaporation of these droplets, because of the evaporation of this droplets. Now, what are the different types of fogs? Fog. Now, if fog is a natural phenomena, but what is happening in the cities? That is, there is a formation of a fog plus smoke from the industries comes. It mixes with the fog, resulting into formation of a smog. So what is a smog? It is a smoke plus fog, which is obviously, it consists of hazardous chemicals, hazardous particles which we inhale and poison our lungs, poison our poison our body, because the smog is a mixture of fog and smoke, generally seen during the evening time, during the daytime, or during the morning time. The entire city, especially in the industrial and polluted regions, it covers the entire city. Now now the same air we breathe and results into diseases, various kind of respiratory diseases. Now you must be reading newspapers daily. Delhi is one of the worst air quality. Delhi is having one of the worst air quality. Why? Because fog is there, industrial smog is there, and due to, as you have read recently, that due to burning up of rice fields in Punjab and Haryana, the entire smoke has come over Delhi, still polluting the air. So this dangerous cocktail of different particles, that is fog plus smoke, results into deadly combination which we inhale and damage ourselves. So you can use this small snippets, small bits of information somewhere in an essay, if the essay comes on environmental ecology, or in the climate change, or in your answer also, to enrich your answer, or maybe it will help you even in the interview. So we know that fog, though I am not dealing here with the fog in totality, fogs are formed due to cooling up of warm air from below. Why? Because of condensation. Then why does the fog disappear during the daytime? It disappears during the daytime because of evaporation. That is exactly opposite of condensation is happening. If the smoke, industrial smoke, polluted smoke mixes with the fog, the deadly cocktail is known as a smog. We will come to that later on in the environment course. Now you know that fog disappears during the daytime, but there is a special type of a fog which is known as photochemical smog. It is a special kind of a fog which is present during daytime. It is therefore during the daytime. Now, how to remember? Photo means sun, day. So you remember that the word here, photochemical smog, means photo stands for sun's energy, that is during the daytime. Chemical means pollutants, and smog is obviously smoke plus fog. Now obviously it is very dangerous. And what is the leading cause? Why during the daytime? Because this photochemical smog is due to the car or vehicular pollution, that is the car exhaust in the forms of nitrous oxides. They react with sunlight to form dangerous ozone gas. And as I told you, ozone is very good in the upper atmosphere. It protects us from UV rays, but it is an irritant when we breathe. Therefore, ozone in the lower atmosphere is dangerous. In the upper atmosphere, it is protecting us from UV rays. It is keeping us safe. But the same gas, when it comes in the lower atmosphere, it becomes an irritant. It is harmful, may causing lung cancer. It is an irritant. It will cause respiratory diseases. So this is about the fogs. What is one of the most important? For inversion results into formation of fogs. We are mixing it, fog with industrial smoke, smog. Now vehicular pollution, nitrous oxides react with the sunlight to form ozone gas. It is known as a photochemical smog. Special kind of a fog, because fog, though it disappears during the daytime, photochemical smog is present during the daytime. So what we have studied now, fog is a health hazard. It also adversely affects or badly affects. It also adversely affects agricultural crops. It also adversely affects the agricultural crops. But there are always exceptions. That is, there is one kind of a famous crop which grows in the Yemen, which grows in Arabia, for which fog is beneficial. Fog comes and makes the climate cold. Crops, as they require better warm climate, so it adversely affects the agricultural production. But you remember, It must be many of your favorite coffee, the mocha coffee, MOCHA, mocha coffee, which is generally well known as in many of the coffee shops. This kind of a coffee is grown in Yemen, and fog is considered to be beneficial for the growing up of mocha coffee. So you can remember, but just an extra bit of information so that it may help you in the preliminary examination, but it is beneficial to mocha coffee plants which grow in Yemen. Now, what is the second? It is harmful to human beings. It is harmful to agricultural crops. Is it harmful for transportation? Yes. You know that it is harmful for transportation. In fact, if you must have seen, or maybe all must have seen the famous movie Titanic. What caused the Titanic accident? Titanic accident was caused because there was such a big iceberg which was not visible, or the captain could not see you can say the sailors could not see the iceberg because the area was covered by dense fogs. Why the areas was covered by the dense fog? Because it is an area where the cold and warm ocean currents meet, and this is an area where, due to mixing up of cold and warm air, there is a frequent fog in that region. And as I told you, whenever the warm and cold air mixes, the warm air being lighter goes upwards and the cold air comes below, resulting into temperature inversion. Temperature inversion resulting into formation of a fog. If in the industrial area, smog. In the agriculture area, not beneficial. Along the transport routes, not beneficial because it causes accidents and disrupts the transportation system also. So, fog reduces visibility. Fog reduces the visibility, causing accidents or destroying or disrupting the transportation system. So, for example, as I told you, Titanic, because that occurs in the area which we will do in oceanography. It occurs in this area of North America. There is mixture of cold Labrador current which comes from the polar region and warm Gulf Stream which comes from the equatorial region. Due to mixing up of these two cold and warm currents, it results this area is always covered by the formation of a fogs. So this was somewhere where the Titanic accident occurred. Now coming back to the topic here. Inversion also causes frost. What is frost? Damages the crops. Frost damages the crops. Reducing the temperature below the freezing point. By reducing the temperature below freezing point. By reducing the temperature, below freezing point. By reducing the temperature 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 belo Now, what is a frost? Though I don't know the Hindi, we will do it in later on. Sometimes during the cold nights, you must have seen that the leaves, the plant trees, or the cars are covered by small ice droplets. Though the ice, though the snowfall does not occur, it is very different from snowfall due to extremely low temperatures during the winters. Even in India, the roads, or you can say the plants, or the leaves are covered by small droplets which get freeze. Now, because of the freezing action, it wilts or it damages the crops. I think, though my Hindi is not that strong, I think it is known as os in Hindi. Though, while coming to the next topic, when we'll do frost, I will, enrich my Hindi vocabulary. So, the inversion also causes frost, and frost damages the crops by reducing the temperature below the freezing point. And lastly, inversion causes atmospheric stability. Inversion causes atmospheric stability. What do you mean by stability in the atmosphere? It means a condition where there is no rainfall. Why there is no rainfall? Because the cold air is below, warm air is above, and there is stability in the atmosphere. Rainfall will occur when the air keeps on rising upwards, there is high humidity, and there is that is the vertical movement of the air resulting into high humidity, high temperature, and rainfall. So, inversion means cold temperature. Cold temperature means the air is coming downwards. Because the air is coming downwards, it results into formation of fog and atmospheric stability. So, during the winter season, there is very less and less rainfall. That is, clear sky is there, cloudless sky is there. Therefore, we say that it promotes the atmospheric stability. These are the significance of inversion of a temperature. Now, coming to, as I told you, it is an important topic. That's why I did not mix this lecture with vertical distribution of temperature and decided 2 short lectures instead of 1 long one. So, here these are the questions which can be asked, which have been asked, or which may be asked in the examination. One question can be, describe temperature inversion. And its significance. Other question can be, what is ground inversion? Or radiation inversion. Describe the conditions necessary for radiation inversion. For radiation inversion. What is valley inversion? Or small question, what is significance of temperature inversion? So this can be the different types of question. Though I have discussed here, now you know what is a ground inversion. Do its conditions also what are necessary for ground inversion, because they can be important for the preliminary examination. What is valley inversion? Same question can be, why valley floors are avoided for human settlement. Then what is the significance of temperature inversion? We have done the significance of temperature inversion. Now here out of this, obviously this is the most challenging one, because here you will have to write about, describe temperature inversion and its significance. So how should you start with your answer? I will give you the structure of the answer here. First, start with definition. Then second with types. That is, there are two types: advectional inversion, non-advectional inversion. Third, explain in short. Advectional inversion. Explain in short. Non-advectional inversion. And fifth, give significance. In your significance, one point should be of fog, the second point should be of frost and damage to crops, the third point should be of atmospheric stability. Atmospheric stability. See here, now fog, I told you accident hai, smog hai, fog hai. This is for your knowledge. If the question comes only on the fog, but you do not have to write each and everything while doing this answer. Why I said it is most important, because I am giving it as an assignment, write this in around 200 words, as which what comes in the examination. The first time you will write, and I guarantee that most of you, if you can write it everything in 200 words, remember the word limit. If it crosses 200 words, that is not the answer. You should try to adjust and explain everything within the 200 words and within the 2 pages of what comes in your UPSC examination paper. And for that, what you can do, you can take any A4 size paper and fold it. You take any A4 size paper, take a big scale, draw a line here, take a big scale, draw a line here, from top here and from here. So you will draw one line from up down, other line from up down, third line from up down, fourth line from up down. And this is what the space you generally get in your examination. And within this space, you have to adjust your answer within the 200 words. If you cross 200 words, then it is not a very good answer. So for that, you should know what you should include and what you should exclude. Write your answer, share it on your forums. Till that, we'll meet for the next lecture. Wish you all the very best. Keep studying very hard. So thank you very much.